afternoon. How's everyone doing? Good. What a great turnout. So many interesting speakers before me, too. Okay, well, let's get started. I'm Andrew. I'm from Zipline. Next slide. This is what we do. We operate drones that deliver blood and medicine to people in need. And we're the only company in the world that is doing this at national scale every single day. So why did we start this company? I'll show you a few pictures. Next slide. These are pictures that my colleagues and I took in Rwanda and Indonesia, and that's me in Bohol stuck in the mud on the way to a barangay health station. And the reason we started Zipline is because when you want to deliver a package from point A to point B, in most parts of the world, it's never a straight line. Next slide. This is a picture of a medical warehouse. All the boxes you see stacked up on pallets here contain medicine and vaccines that are going bad. They're expiring because of all the logistical challenges of getting them out to the people who really need them. Next slide. And the Philippines is not immune to this problem. These are two articles from the Inquirer. The one on the left talks about how hard it is to get medicine to rural communities. And the one on the right is from a recent World Health Organization meeting that describes one factor among several of the difficulty around getting the public access to vaccines, which is the enormous logistical challenge involved in doing that. Next slide. So, we see a direct connection between lack of access or poor access and poor health outcomes. Again, because getting things from point A to point B is really difficult. So we invented a way to get things from point A to point B in a straight line. Next slide. And we see, again, a direct connection between better access to medicine and better health outcomes. And this is especially true outside of places like Metro Manila and rural areas and the provinces and so on. Next slide. So what does this look like in practice? Well, I want to tell you about the journey of this person here. His name is Kevin. My colleague took his picture at a hospital here in the Philippines. Kevin was looking for blood for one of his relatives, and he called 9 different hospitals looking for blood, and he couldn't find it. So people in Kevin's situation really have 3 options. The first option is to go to another hospital, and if that hospital doesn't have it, to go to another one and another one. That can take 3 or 4 hours. His second option is to go to maybe a Red Cross facility, but that takes even longer because there are fewer of them. And then his third option, which is surprisingly common in many parts of the world, is to go on social media and to ask your friends or your relatives, hey, can you come help me out? I need blood. None of these options is optimal, and none of them guarantee that Kevin or people in Kevin's situation are going to find what they need. So, what does this situation look like when a hospital has drone delivery? Next slide. In this situation, Kevin is not even part of the equation. When the hospital runs out of blood, they simply place an order. A Zipline facility packs the order in a matter of minutes. We launch it via a drone. We drop it off via a parachute, and someone from the hospital picks it up and gives it to the person in need. So if Kevin had to go from, let's say, somewhere in Bohol all the way to Cebu to look for blood, that could take 8 or 9 hours. But with Zipline, we can get them the blood in 15 or 25 minutes. Next slide. So our mission is to provide every human on Earth with instant access to vital medical supplies. Next slide. This is an image of our drone. We call them Zips. So as you'll probably notice, they don't have wheels. So how do we take off? How do we deliver things? How do we land? I'll show you on the next slide. So after we package the Zip, it's placed on this launcher. It goes from 0 to 100 miles an hour in a fraction of a second. Then when the Zip gets above the health facility that's delivering to, it drops the package via parachute, and it lands directly at the health facility. What's interesting about this second image is you can see that we have to drop with extraordinary precision and accuracy. And if you see all the other red boxes there, you can see that we hit the same spot almost every time. And then, because the zips don't have wheels, the way we recover them back at our distribution centers is with a cable that catches a 1 centimeter hook on the tail of the zip. So it's really pretty amazing technology. Next slide. This is just to show you what we could do with distribution centers in the Visayas. So if you just look at those 3 circles in the center in red, just those 3 distribution centers could serve about 12 million people and deliver to almost 60 hospitals. So it's really pretty amazing coverage. Next slide. As I mentioned, we're the only company operating at national scale. So with 2 distribution centers, we cover almost the entire country of Rwanda. And we recently expanded into Ghana earlier this year. And once we have our 4 distribution centers up, we're going to cover about 12 million people in 2,000 health facilities. Next slide. But we're not just operating in Africa, we've also done work in Australia, and soon we're going to be operating in North Carolina too, in the United States. Next slide. And we recently signed a deal in India to serve 120 million people. India is such a massive place that we signed an agreement with just 1 state. And in that 1 state, we'll have 10 distribution centers that serve 120 million people. That's pretty exciting. Next slide. This is our impact to date, which is what everyone in the company is most proud of. I think the surprising thing to me when I joined Zipline was learning that 1/3 of the deliveries we make are life-saving deliveries. So if you go to Rwanda or Ghana or soon India and you see one of our drones in the sky, as you're walking down the street or you're driving in a car, you know that there's a 1 in 3 chance that that drone is on its way to save somebody's life. Next slide. So here's some of the press we've received. We really don't talk about or really focus on raising money or valuation or anything like that because we're such a mission-driven company. But it's worth noting in this case because we deliver vital medical supplies, and when we work with governments and departments of health and so on, it's important that they know that we are strongly backed and we have the resources to stay committed to the region or to the countries in which we operate. But I think by far, can you go back one please? The coolest thing about this slide is that it announces that Bono is on our board, which is really exciting. Bono joined a couple weeks ago. This is the only board that Bono sits on, and when the announcement came out, Bono had this great quote, which is, "Where you live should not be based on whether you live," which I think really captures the ethos of Zipline. Next slide. A little bit about our company. We're based in Half Moon Bay, just south of San Francisco. We're still very much in startup mode. We have over 200 employees, but we're growing quite fast. Next slide. So, back to the topic of this session, which is the key role that governments can play in enabling startups. I wanted to share with you these 3 items that the Director General of the Rwandan Civil Aviation Authority recently delivered at a big event. When the president of Rwanda went to the Civil Aviation Authority and said, "Can you make something like Zipline happen in this country?" his response was no. It's way too complex. The guidelines on regulating drones are really thin, and you're talking about delivering blood and dropping it from the sky. There's just no way we could do it. But they did. And once they did it, it was no longer impossible. And once they did it and it was no longer impossible, they immediately saw the positive impacts on health outcomes in Rwanda. And because of that, the 3rd point, they're celebrating having taken the lead. So Rwanda took a risk, they made it happen, health outcomes improved, and now Rwanda is setting the standards for a lot of drone regulation in the entire region. So they're very proud of that, and we're proud of our partnership with them. We work at really the intersection of 2 of the most heavily regulated industries in the world, which is healthcare and aviation. So we can't do what we do without partnering with governments, and we like to think that we have some small contribution to the role governments have in improving health outcomes. So it's very much a partnership between our company, which is a mission-driven, for-profit, private sector enterprise, and governments. So I think that's one of the key roles that governments can play in enabling and empowering startups. You have to identify innovation, and you have to take risks, like this gentleman did, in seeing them through to implementation. Thank you.